Now it gives me pleasure to introduce our District Governor, Ron Payne. Ron has been a member of the Rotary Club of Eaglehawk for 18 years, having twice served as President and filling most board positions in that time. His district leadership journey started with the role of Assistant Governor and has included duties on various committees as well as mentoring the AG team. Ron believes that building a committed team and empowering them to use initiative will ensure a successful and respectful environment develops across the district. A strong commitment to assisting the district team in providing direct and informed consent and guidance to clubs and club officers is a key priority for Ron. Promotion of the Rotary organisation through focused public image strategies of the excellent work undertaken by individual Rotarians and clubs is also an important intention. Communication is paramount in importance, and coming work on the Zone 8 regionalisation pilot will require clear and supportive interactions between the district team and clubs if effective change is to be achieved. So with that, I'm pleased to ask our District Governor to come to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you, President Chris, and good afternoon, everybody. It's lovely to be with you. I must confess, apart from being the love of my life, my wife accompanies me to Rotary functions because that's not the first time she's drawn my raffle ticket out. It is lovely to be with you today, and I am indebted to Chris and his team for the opportunity to meet prior to the meeting. It gave me a good insight to this club, which is obviously a highly respected club, does enormous work in the Rotary scene, and it's having had that opportunity to speak this morning, it clarifies further in my mind some of the thoughts that I have about what we actually do in Rotary and how we actually do it. This club has the potential, and I believe as a consequence of our talks this morning, it has the will to work with all of the clubs across our district and beyond to do better work than what we're doing. As a Rotary organisation worldwide, we are strong. We're very strong. We're built on strong traditions. But the world is changing, and we need to be able to address those changes in a meaningful way to all of the people we serve. So again, Chris, thank you for that opportunity. What I wanted to do today is really to give you an overview of the way I see the functioning of the district for this year. Remembering, of course, we're building on the work of other people over many, many years, and things just don't start and stop each year. Certainly there'll be new foci that we'll be looking at, there'll be new priorities, and even within clubs we do this as well, although I think clubs probably do it better than the district does it, in terms of you plan, you look strategically ahead at what you're doing, and then you set about that implementation. And I think the district still has work to do in getting better at that, taking a longer term view so that we don't get this isolated 1 year approach to things. I'm not going to solve it in my year. I don't think Michael will solve it in his, or Peter his, because we're in a changing environment, and as I said, we need those conversations to happen. Now, Joe, let's see if we can get this operating. No? Let's go to the first one. Thank you, Joe. I had the privilege, obviously, in January of being part of the worldwide training program for incoming district governors in Orlando. We were treated to a smorgasbord of wonderful speakers, wonderful district leaders who were quite inspiring to us. But our current RI President, Gordon McInally, to me is an extremely inspirational person because he's very, very grounded. I like people who are grounded. and he resonated strongly with me because his message was very clear. It's about making sure that we're connecting with the people who need our support and assistance. So in the broad sense of melting it down, Gordon has three key priorities. Mental health is key number one priority. And I won't go into a long-winded story about it, but the backstory to that for Gordon is that this was built on the back of his younger brother actually committing suicide. So he was touched, and it was in his family, so he's speaking with conviction about where that priority is. End polio. We all know the work of End Polio. We know what we're doing with it, and we know that we need to continue that story. And the third priority for Gordon was to continue the work of past RI President Jennifer Jones and others who had been doing wonderful work around empowering women. A very strong and very important message in our society today, across all nations. We see it in our society, we see it in some of the oppressed countries. It's worse in some countries than it is here. We know that, but we've got to continue to do that work, just like we put our energy into End Polio and other major projects of that ilk. The work we need to do with girls particularly is being done. I'm seeing evidence of it as I go around the clubs in District 9800. We're doing wonderful things like mentoring work, mock interviews for jobs, focusing on those specific things that align very strongly with our RI President's portfolio. Question. I usually ask the question, why are we in Rotary? And we even had that in our discussion earlier this morning. Why are we in Rotary? And I wonder, do we stop and think about that periodically or often enough? But I like to think there's a whole host of different reasons why we are in Rotary, but predominantly it's because we are good people who want to make a difference. We want to give back, and importantly, we now, at the time of our commitment to Rotary, we have that capacity in whatever shape or form that is. For some people it's experience, for others it's knowledge, other people it's financial wealth, but we all bring different things to the table. The reassuring issue from my perspective is if you have a look there, we've got our 7 areas of focus. And this is one of the strengths of Rotary from my view, and that is that it gives us guidance around the work that we do. When you distill it down to each club will make their decisions around what they need to do. And there's a host of reasons why that is so. But we've got these very important guiding areas to allow us to do our planning and to do our work. So I like to use this slide just to remind people to say we are being given good support and the work we do will fit into one of these areas. The Rotary International Action Plan, again, please, Joe, thank you. It's very important. I mentioned earlier that we have clubs and we have districts who will do work and it'll change from year to year. But one of the things that underpins everything that we do is the Rotary Action Plan. And irrespective of what the projects and programs are, these, again, like those areas of focus, this is what we do. And I make mention of the year that we had last year under District Governor Amanda. It was a very different year, but it caused us to think about looking at Rotary in a different way. And in its own way, it was highly successful in encouraging people to think about particularly that dimension of volunteerism. And that work will continue. And her framework was still built around Rotary's action plan. This year, it's different. While I will continue to foster and promote the volunteerism because it's really important, I do have a different focus. So what is that focus? For me, it's to take a step back. We've been through COVID. We've got lots of challenges. We've got change happening. We've got regionalisation on our doorstep. So I believe our district, I think Rotary generally, but I'm focusing on our district, I believe our district needs to take stock. We need to halt what we're doing to a degree and say, is it fit for purpose of what we're doing? If we do that at a district level and we do that at club level, then we are going to be sure that we are going in the right direction as we go forward. One of the things that we've done is, on your table you'll see the little blue pamphlet. Keeping it simple to me was, let's not get into too elaborate a process around documentation, and most importantly, I don't believe our district team this year is about telling you what to do. The role of the district team for me is very heavily centred on support. And I've built a really very capable, experienced, knowledgeable team that I'm very, very confident can do that work around support. Thanks, Joe. So a major part of the pamphlet that you can see there, you won't read it off the screen, but it's about a very simplified one-page plan of what we could do. This is not what you will do. This is built on those 4 pillars of the Rotary Action Plan. And what we have simply done is consulted people across the district, talked about how we're going, what are the areas that we could improve in. And so we've built in a range of initiatives that are both are happening and could happen. But it's very much up to clubs to then go back and have their conversations around what do we as a group want to do. So in terms of those key pillars, it's not rocket science. We all know this. There they are there. This is what Rotary's about. It's about membership, and we know that membership is a challenge at the moment, particularly in Zone 8. Because in Zone 8, Australia, New Zealand and our Pacific Islands, over the past 10 years, we have experienced a 26.1 decline in membership. Now, if we don't take notice of that, then we're in great difficulty. But it doesn't mean that we have to run out and try and bring more people through the door. I have a different view to that. I think what we've got to do is to be thinking about how do we actually engage more broadly with our community. So it's not just about Rotary. To me, it's about those other organisations that do service work in our community and how we can link with them to form partnerships where we identify the need and we can work with them. Now that's very superficial, I know, but to me it's the basic work that we can do. And this club in particular, and I've had the conversation with President Chris even post our meeting this morning, I see the value in this club, Rotary Club Melbourne, being a mentor and a support to a lot of the other clubs in our district, because I think the figure is something like 60% of our clubs have 20 members or less. So you can see that the challenge that faces those groups is that they need guidance, they need support to remain effective in their community as well. Thanks, Joe. Okay, so what are the key priorities of District 9800 for this year? Firstly, it's communication. And I'll say it again, communication, communication, communication. We've got to be open to dialogue and talks. Sometimes that communication does not meet with our thinking, does not meet with agreement from us. But if we're willing to have the conversations, we can develop strategies and processes that take us forward. So we need to do that. Engagement of members. If we don't engage them, that's when we lose them. Simple as that. People come into the clubs. If they're not involved, they'll walk out the door. Public image and promotion is a big ticket item for me. My belief is that one of our problems is we do great work and we tell ourselves we're doing great work, but our broader public doesn't know it to the degree that they should. So what I'm encouraging this year is to make sure that we can tell our stories. We're familiar with Networker as a tool within the district. I'm asking our public image team this year, refocus Networker. Don't be a repository for anything and everything that people want to put out there for people to read. I want it to be the place where we tell the stories. We tell what we're doing. We promote that to people. We share that with people, and therefore hopefully we can inspire people to be involved. The final one is foundation, and that's the End Polio project is a key priority there. Forgive me, I've just dropped my little sheet here that was given to me, just a plug. Here's a typical example of work that's going on within polio, is the Pause for Polio Walk, which will happen in October. So watch our various media from the district and we'll get more information about that. But there's a whole host of different things happening. One of the initiatives that I want to promote strongly, and I've left with Joe a number of the forms that can be available to people, I would like to strongly support the Polio Plus Society. It's a new initiative in our district. You've all heard of Every Rotarian Every Year and Centurion. They're losing impetus. They're losing energy. So what we're going to do is to refocus those funds that go towards those areas and encourage people to be a member of the Polio Plus Society. Here's my challenge, and my challenge is to Chris, and my challenge is to all other presidents in our district. I want you to reach out to your membership to see if we can get 50% membership of every club to be a member of the Polio Plus Society. If we can do that, we will raise collectively $150,000 this year, specifically for that initiative. And I think that's eminently doable. Okay, so how can we help? By we, I mean the district. As I've said, our focus is on support. Your immediate contact is your Assistant Governor, Fabienne. So you would reach out to her initially and have those conversations. And I know she's very active and very enthusiastic about supporting the club with the district. We have our board and we have our district support team comprising of our avenues of service chairs, our program support chairs and our assistant governor team. And the board will be meeting on a monthly basis face to face, and our focus is very much primarily governance. We've got to make sure that we're administering the district well, and we've got capable people on that board who are very, very proficient in the areas of expertise. The other team, however, we will meet on a monthly basis, and we'll meet via Zoom. And that conversation is purely about programs and projects. And finally, down the bottom is just a list of ideas. Your club is clearly ahead of the game with this, but where needed, we need to support our clubs with planning and preparation. So through visioning, the Leadership Institute, etc., there's a host of different ways that we can do that. Some very basic tips. Look, most of you are either leaders or people who've got a lot of experience, but I think these will resonate strongly with you. The conversations, they must be had. I'd like to go to the third point. I looked at the list of activities Rotary Club Melbourne has done over the past year. I think it was 3 pages, Chris, if not more. Incredible. The amount of work being done is just incredible. My question around programs and activities, are they effective? Are they meeting the need? And if they're doing the work and they're being sustained, then who is it that's doing the work? I believe every worthwhile activity must have a champion, somebody who drives on behalf of the members, works with the members and reports back to the board. Now, if we can do that, programs will be sustainable. If we don't have people buy in, then it's not going to work. I've been in the role 6 weeks. I can tell you the number of suggestions that I've had that have come into my email box about district should do this, district should do that, could district do this, could district do that. My immediate answer to that is, whose district? And I don't say that glibly or without respect, because those ideas are coming in a meaningful way of people promoting idea. But what I'm trying to get across is, yes, we're listening to you, but what you need to do is to work with us. So hence the champion. Fellowship and fun. Was it Chris telling me that you have various groups that build that because of the size of your club? You have mechanisms for that. So well done. Thanks. And next one, please, Joe. The regionalisation pilot, I'm not going to elaborate on that because the key person for that is sitting in front of me down here. But suffice to say, it's a very, very important initiative. And what you can expect this year, and there's already emails come out to you this week. If you've checked your email box, you'll see what's been provided to you. 3 key things to happen over the course of this Rotary year. The formation of the Regional Council, the development of communities replacing clusters, and the appointment of regional community leaders. And these are the people who'll take on the role currently undertaken by our assistant governors. Michael will be charged with that. He's doing a lot of work as part of all of the planning with it, and in time, at the appropriate time, he'll be liaising with you to give you more information around that. So finally, I'd just like to say thank you, Chris, to you and to everybody present for the opportunity of joining you and talking with you, hopefully giving you a bit of a sense of where the focus is for the district this year. And can I just say, on behalf of everybody in Rotary, thank you for the enormous work you do. We are all volunteers, but I think people in Rotary are exceptionally clever, effective volunteers. And I thank you for your work. Thank you.
Thank you, District Governor. Suffice to say, Rotary Melbourne is a very good friend of yours, and we are here to work with your objectives because we can see that the value of collaborations will have a significant impact. So we have a few minutes now for questions. I advise that when the microphone is directed to you, kindly state your name as well as your question. Thank you.
Colin Honey. Thank you, District Governor Ron, for a well-researched and challenging and comprehensive talk. I have a concern that I wanted to ask your advice on, and that is whether there are things that the district can do specifically for the Rotary Club of Melbourne, given, as it seems to me, that this club is in terminal decline.
Thank you, Colin, for your question, and it's very relevant, obviously. If the biggest club in the district is in decline, then we have a challenge across the district. And your point is well made. I think I don't see a direct or a complete answer for your question, because it comes to that issue of membership. And what I would say in that regard is we need to think differently. All of the tried and true methods, they still may remain relevant in some cases, but I think we have to work differently. One of the areas that I'm really keen about this year, and we're doing good work that's getting traction is we have to look to our younger members of our community. It doesn't mean that they're going to be immediate members of the clubs. For example, prior to the start of this year, we had 10 Interact clubs, Interact being secondary age students. And the work of the Interact clubs is well embedded in our district. What we've already done is we've chartered a new Interact club at Collingwood, and we've got 3 others in the wind of being formed. And what I'm doing as I go around clubs is saying, accept the challenge that we've got membership-wise, but let's not rest and not be active about it. Let's get into the schools, because we won't get them to start with, but we'll get them later on if we can work with younger people to embed that notion or that value of service, because this is what we're about, service. Immediately, I think the activity that might solve part of your question, Colin, is to build on the work that Amanda did last year, and that is looking at volunteerism. Again, we may not have paid up members of Rotary, but is that the end game that we're really looking for if things are going to change? If we get the opportunity to get into other clubs, other organisations within our community, and we can access the people who are willing to volunteer, then they can support us in the projects we're doing. So again, it's not a complete answer, but it's a strategy that can work. And I think we just need to be continuing to have that conversation about, here is a problem, how do we work on that? Our district membership chair, Lauren Clark, is going to run a forum on membership on October the 21st. Again, we'll be inviting people from clubs to come along and actually workshop that. Because as I said before, it's not about district having all of the answers, but it's about us working with clubs to promote strategies that might address these issues. So at this stage, Colin, that's probably as much as I could say about a problem that it's not worldwide, but it certainly is in Zone 8.
Thank you, District Governor Ron. I'm interested just extending your comment there about Interact. What about Rotaract? We have made efforts here to link up with the City Rotaract Club that used to exist and I think went into some sort of decay. But I'm sure we'll be very keen to resurrect that connection if possible. There was somebody in district last year looking at the Rotaract side of things. Is there somebody this year we can talk to?
Thanks, Robert. The challenge to the last part of your question there is, at the moment, no, we don't have anybody in district, and the reason being that our district Rotaract representative has moved on to other things, and we've been unable to identify or encourage anybody into that role. We're continuing to work on a broader scale with that. The challenge that we've got is our district has 2 Rotaract clubs, and therein lies part of the problem of we don't have the masses to be able to work across those clubs like we can with Rotary clubs. A heartening happening in recent times, the University of Melbourne is about to charter a Rotaract club. And this initiative came from the students themselves, a couple of key leaders. So here's my point about champions. We've got a couple of people there who are willing to do the legwork to get that up. They have been able to get 50 signatures for their Rotaract club. So through the Rotary Club of Carlton, who are working with Swinburne as well, we're starting to get some traction there. So just like we're trying to push the work with Interact, we'll progressively try to do that with Rotaract. The challenge around Rotaract is it's an observation, not an excuse, or it's not even fact necessarily, is that a lot of the people of Rotaract age are completing their university programs or completing their education, moving into employment, starting families, starting jobs. So the question is around their commitment to forming a group like Rotaract. One of the things that we need to do as a district, work with our clubs, I think we need to get a stronger leg into the tertiary education sector to actually promote what we're doing in Rotary as a viable way in which these people of that age group might start their service work. It's a bit of a promotional thing, it's a bit of a sell, but I see that as probably the most simplest way that we can start. Short of clubs taking the initiative themselves and saying this is going to be a priority, it's tough work. But at the moment, and again, it's not 9800 alone with this, Rotaract across the board is problematic. Some districts are doing well with it, and what we need to do is learn from them about their strategies as well.
Ron, I've got a question for you. Bernie McIntosh. Your personal Rotary journey, when, how, why?
It started in 2002, Bernie. My background is school teaching, and at that time I was a principal of a larger primary school in Bendigo. Eaglehawk North was the school. Consequently, I joined Eaglehawk Rotary Club. And that was at the instigation of one of my principal colleagues who said to me, it's about time you got yourself into Rotary. And I thought, well, being a principal's not enough. So I did join 2002 because I did see it. Our community in Eaglehawk is a very socio-economically diverse. A lot of low socio-economic. So I thought, yeah, there's a different dimension that I can contribute here, just outside of the educational aspect. The problem was I went in 2002 and I finished in 2005. Now, the reason I left Rotary was that point that I made about engagement. I was not being stimulated or engaged by my club because you're the principal in the school. In the club, you can do the newsletter. Give me a break. So consequently, I thought, with respect, I stepped away for a while, came back a few years later. But what I did was I thought, well, I'm not going back to the same thing. So I actually got myself onto the board. And there I was able to effect change because I introduced a different dialogue around what are we actually doing. And in that time, our club's gone through a very significant transformation. When I was first in it, we were up 38, but we're now 20. The reason that we went to 20 was, and I was part of this, I challenged the status quo of what is our Rotary Club about. We're not really engaging our members. We're not inviting our members in. We're not getting new members because we're stuck in a time warp. So what actually happened is quite a number of those people who were responsible for that sort of behaviour left. We bottomed out at 19, but now we're going up again. This year alone, we've inducted 3 new members, one of whom's in her early 20s as a pharmacist she's one of the Karen community. So we're starting to reach out to different people. So at times you've got to take a step back to take a step forward. But I think the important thing was I made it clear I wasn't being engaged, and if I was to be in Rotary, I had to be. So that's pretty much my journey.
Well, there could be an item here which is complimentary, but we'll talk about that in a moment. Thank you very much, District Governor. It was a very informative presentation, and again, we look forward to working with you as you elucidate your priorities and relationships amongst the clubs in the district and beyond. We have 2 items here. The limited edition convention socks, 200% Australian made in Preston by our very own past president, Phil Endersby, from Wilderness Wear, as well as a book about Australia's first Rotary Club. So I think in combination of these two things plus the bottle of wine, you'll be okay. Thank you. Cheers. Thank you. In closing, I would like to thank our visitors and guests for attending. Thank you to our MC, Bernie McIntosh, and for the reflection, Philip Cornish, and our lunch and setup and reception teams for their weekly efforts in making this meeting happen. If you could stay back for a few minutes to assist, that would be very appreciative. In addition, we have a card here for one of our members, Clive, who's recovering from illness. If you'd like to sign it, please do so. I'm sure he'd love to hear from us. A reminder that next week we of course are here again, and our guest speaker will be Keith Ryan, Executive Director, Victoria Housing Industry Association. Timely topic will be, will my builder finish my house? Yes, they will, but talk to them. Okay, that's an interesting topic. Join us and consider bringing a guest. And